I know it's hard. This is the end of the week, but I'm sure you're very attentive, and I'm very pleased to welcome our panelists. I'm sharing my screen just to maybe give you a few hints on our webinar. We have created a specific hashtag today. I'm checking where's my, sorry about that. I'm sharing my screen, so this is it. My name is Yvette Ramos. I will be your moderator for the next 1 hour. And I'm pleased to welcome you to this webinar. We've been also broadcasted on the YouTube channel by Womenvai, one of the 3 organizers. And we welcome you today here on this special session on about sexism on campuses. Myself, I'm an engineer, graduated from EPF, and I'm going to give the speech to the 3 co-organizers, EPF, HeHop, and we'll be presenting Womenvai in a few minutes. But first, we have an exclusive video message by the UN, United Nations Secretary General, who, and we are very honored and we thank him so much for that. This is this webinar is at the occasion of the Equality Generation Forum labelized by ONU Femmes France, the UN Women branch of the France. And we shall now share the video of Mr. SG of the UN. Are you ready, Dennis, to share the video? Thank you very much. We hope it will be working well. Yes.
I send my warmest greetings to the organizers and participants in this important virtual event to end sexual violence on college campuses. Gender-based violence and harassment are criminal and unacceptable in any context, including on college campuses. Such violence is a long-standing issue rooted in millennia of patriarchy, inequality, and discrimination against women. I'm very concerned about skyrocketing reports of gender-based violence during recent lockdowns related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I repeat my call for peace in the home and an end to this scourge, and I welcome the strong global response. We must build on this momentum to end the shadow pandemic of gender-based violence once and for all. Please continue to speak out in support of survivors and demand accountability from perpetrators. The United Nations stands with you. I wish you every success for your event.
Thanks very much, Mr. UN SG. It is really an honor to have such an eminent character speaking to open our event, of course. Let me share again my screen because I would like you to see what our organizations, co-organizers have to say. Maybe we would like to give the speech first to Liliane. Can you explain us why is it so important that EPF is one of the partners?
Hello, everyone. I'm Liliane Dorvaux. I'm Deputy Director of EPF on the campus, Montpellier campus. I'm a mathematician, in fact. And I'm involved in an organization like Womenvai or another one organization in France, national one, El Bouge. And what about EPF? Because EPF is well-known school of engineering in France because of its particularly singular history. This school of engineering has been founded in 1925 by Marie-Louise Paris and was called at the time as École Polytechnique Féminine. EPF was one of the first engineering schools in France to train women. Since then, And for more than 90 years, EPF School of Engineering, with its 3 campuses now, one in close to Paris, another one in Troyes, and the last one in Montpellier, south of France, prepare its graduates for a changing and more globalized world. EPF has educated decision makers in variety of disciplines, public or private sectors, and it offers a generalist, multidisciplinary, and multilingual education. EPF was for women only until 1994, and then it became mixed with male and female students. At the time, it has been called EPF. The ratio of female now in EPF is around 35% and represents the highest rate compared to the other French engineering school. Marie-Louise Paris was one of the pioneers fighting for gender equality and ethics values. And the EPF missions continue to do so and contribute to forge EPF engineers with very strong humanist value and committed to issues facing society. 3 main strong values are commitment, enterprise, and innovation. EPF graduates not only possess excellent professional skills by leading enterprise and recruiters, but our students benefit from a truly international environment. Focus on academic excellence and innovative teaching method, EPF also plays a pioneering role in the promotion of diversity. It's in the idea of the school and equal opportunity in higher education. EPF has always been involved to diversity through the partnership with other organizations such as Elbouge and Womenvai, now with us today in collaboration of this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liliane. It is really an honor to have you here with us, and we are very proud of you. Thank you very much. I can see you are still at school now. It's getting late. And I know, of course, the students couldn't come, otherwise they would be around you. So thank you
Sure.
for your time and all. I know it's exam period, so it's very tough for everybody there. Now let me introduce you to Sandy. Please, Sandy, it's your turn. You are the president of HeHop. Please tell us a little bit more about HeHop.
Thank you, Yvette. So hello, everybody, and very happy to be here. HeHop is a not-for-profit organization that is based in France, and it's been created in April 2019. And our reason for being is really to restore hope for victims of violence, and specifically violence behind closed doors. And we also want to restore the faith in the judiciary system by providing a blockchain integrated application that enable victims and witnesses and their families to capture proof of violence. And I will tell you more about that later.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I know you are a leader in that area, and we are very eager to know about this very innovative solution to help students fight actually sexism. I will say a few words about Womenvai actually, because we are also a brand new NGO. We started 2 years ago, and you can find some information on our website actually that goes to the LinkedIn page because it's still not yet finalized, but we are a mixed platform with men and women that provide innovative projects and solutions for linking, in fact, high tech and environment. So we address agriculture issues, we address hydrological and meteorological issues, climate change issues, and of course we are mixed, so we are men and women coming from STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And of course, we're supported by those. So we really think ahead in terms of equality. And one of our themes, of course, is equality between women and men in STEM. So that's why also we are so much interested in fighting stereotypes. We don't see girls in pink and boys in blue. We see a mix of all of that, and we believe first in the humanity. So love yourself to respect the others. That's really a motto we have. Our theme too is really, as I said previously, looking at our planet differently and looking at projects for development, always aligned with the SDGs, who are, of course, the key nerve of all our projects. So Sustainable Development Goals, who were present at the last COP25 in Madrid, and we raised basically the issue of how to partner, not only locally, but also internationally. And we are so pleased to have this webinar here today, because what we can have as a specific application, as we're going to discuss today, you will be able to find it also outside of France, because we want to develop those projects. It can also be some coaching, mentoring programs, anything as soon as it relates to equality between women and men, of course, boys and girls. So I just want to, this is about Womenvai. Again, coming back to our three partners, we've had a wonderful Twitter leader today, Chris. Thank you very much to you. You are leading the Twitter side, and you have created a hashtag that is hashtag 3 July 2020 Act Now, because we really want to have that as a move on. And our next meeting, we hope to have it at the occasion of the 25th November. As you know, every year we have a special international day to fight violence against girls and women. And this is directly linked to the SDG number 5 about equality. And we also hope this time to have the UN Secretary General in live. So we'll tell you more about that at the end of our chat. So coming back to our topic, and I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, because we want to see people around. I would like to invite now the EPF to tell us about engagement and commitment from the top management, because as we know, it is all about a question of commitment from the highest level. We've seen that the UN is engaged, and the SG has made it clear that he wants to personally commit to that, and the UN agencies we are in link with, that is the UNFCCC for the climate change issues. Myself, I'm an expert within the ITU, and we've been doing wonderful webinars also with the WISIS team, the World Summit for Information Society, where we have put also the gender issues so in deep in the program. We also work with the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, and they have specific thematics addressing women. So now we want to partner more at the level of education, and of course UNESCO in that sense would be a wonderful partner. We're really starting now with this violence on campuses issues. It started, our project here started a few months ago when there was this rise of violence, at least in the media. We could see that, hey, why are boys and girls, and it's mostly girls, of course, 85% to 90%. We look more into the figures with Sandy and Lilian later, but what we can say is that really, why do we have so much violence on campuses? Why is it this level of violence not addressed today? So we're going to give the speech now, and unfortunately he was with our session previously in French, but he did a wonderful video. So we're going to give the speech now to Jean-Michel Nicole, who is the Director General of EPF, the school that Liliane just presented a few minutes ago. Dennis, this is your turn. Can you put on the video? Or Cyrielle, sorry, Cyrielle, who is with us, Director of Communications. We don't hear so far. Waiting for Cyrielle, the Director of Communication,
yes,
of EPF, to start.
Do you see the video?
we can see it, the first
let's go.
Page, and you can put it on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, higher education institutions are the place where those who tomorrow will form the ruling class are maturing. The main challenge of the formative years is integration into the world of work, especially in the corporate world. It is therefore both a place, a time where conscience must be built. Last June, Conference of Grande École, CGE, announced the publication of the first official report on gender equality, entitled From Declaration of Intent to Experimentation. This book presents, through feedback and testimonials, examples of implementation, common commitments of institution, equality strategy on a daily basis, acting with and for student research as a vector of change. The authors then formulate 5 proposals for action to anchor gender equality in the daily life of institution, for making the Grande École an egalitarian and inclusive models of organization, and one way is to fight against all forms of discrimination and gender-based and sexual violence. Roxane Dejour, clinical psychologist and researcher associated with the Laboratory of Clinical Psychology, Psychopathology and Psychoanalysis of the University of Paris, is author of a thesis entitled Preparatory Classes, Grande École and Entry in Adulthood, Between Impulsive Renunciation and Sexuality. She analyzed in a recent research article the social relationships that are established during festive activities in Grande École. This theme echoes recent cases of harassment, sexism, or homophobia that have occurred recently in business schools. It shows how parties and their excesses, knowingly tolerated, have the function of creating an esprit de corps, but also of learning about the practices of sociability inherent in the ruling condition and power relation, especially sexist one. She sees this behavior as an indispensable cause for the perpetuation of the domination of men over women. In schools, gender stereotype is which women tend to be devalued, mark the relationship between girls and boys. Just look at the vocabulary used at parties or integration weekend, where sexist attacks and sexual harassment are never far away. Moreover, in its annual report on the situation of sexism in France, published in 2019, the High Council for Equality between Women and Men described the Grande École as virilist bastions and a melting pot of sexism towards the business world. Faced with this excess, what are the schools doing? Measures have been taken in 3 areas since the end of 1990s. Repression with the law banning hazing and open bar, but above all the law of 4 August 2014 for real equality between women and men. Prevention with the charters of good practice, and finally, individual psychological monitoring. However, some academic institutions lack an essential link: the commitment of the school administration to firmly oppose the all too frequent circumvention on official bans. The reasons for this are not due to the reckless indulgence of school officials, not to their incompetence in enforcing the rules, but according to Roxane Dejour, to social customs, particularly alcoholism, which in many cases is a source of reprehensible behavior. These behaviors are systematically trivialized and blamed on a school prank, therefore never recognized for what they are, neither by the responsible student, of course, nor by the school management, or even sometimes by the students themselves. Girls who rebel are considered killjoys. Moreover, the fight against sexism is denounced as a political and therefore systematically disqualified. The objective is to marginalize women's resistance. The fight against discrimination must be a priority in the institution strategic plan. Silence is the worst enemy of truth. A little less than half of the French universities declare that they do not have a monitoring and listening unit, an indispensable tool to fight against sexist and sexual violence, but also against harassment and all forms of discrimination. Most of these systems do not really deal with racist and LGBT-phobic violence. Out of the 39 systems identified, just over 20% set up a monitoring and listening unit against all forms of discrimination. Then, what we have to do if we want to change this situation? The main proposals that emerge from the CGE's white paper are threefold. To feminize the management team, only 15% of the Grande École are headed by women. Zero tolerance of school administration. In addition, the issue of gender equality must be explicitly displayed in training. This requires, for example, the implementation of compulsory co-educational courses, as this is the case in the engineering school of the University of Strasbourg, ECPM, which propose a 6-hour stereotype and issues of professional equality between women and men training course for first-year students, putting students at the heart of the change. Students have particularly distinguished themselves in recent years through some association and movement as overall, which fight against sexism in higher education. This movement may be associated with associations dedicated to parity, such as E for She, which have sprung up in several schools, Neoma, ESSEC, CAGE. This movement should grow in the next 2 years. It's necessary to address this issue from the early age to avoid gender biais as much as possible, in particular through the work of alumni associations in engineering, Elle Bouge, Femmes at Numérique, and Femmes Ingénieurs, which carry out annual awareness-raising activities among high school girls. In conclusion, I invite all those involved in higher education to commit themselves to the 5 main lines of action proposed by the Conférence des Grandes Écoles. Regularly produce a diagnosis of equality, formalize an equality strategy and action plan, transforming schools into a model of egalitarian and inclusive organization, fight against discrimination, promote debate and exchange on the issue of gender equality too. It's time to change. We have to act now. I thank you for your attention.
Congratulations. I must say that this was a great exercise for Jean-Michel. I hate stereotypes, but sometimes I like also the French accent, right? Anyways, what I retain and what I would like you to retain here is that, and I think I like this quote, silence is worse than enemy of truth. And we're going to give the speech to Sandy and Lillian later on, because it's so true that we cannot stand anymore those violented victims, because they are victims and silence. They cannot just get into silence, because it's really the enemy of what we want to do. We want to achieve a better world. And he gave concretely a strong commitment of the EPF. That is one of the key recommendations of the CGE, which is the overall congress, I would say, of the 200 and something faculties of engineering in France. And these are one of the 5 recommendations. I noted also that the management team, who is still only with 15% of women, still needs to hire more women at the management team level. The zero tolerance commitment is one strong thing that he just mentioned, the training for the students as well, and the plan of action. We have to diagnose, get some figures and facts, and elaborate a strategy. I'm going now to give the speech to maybe Liliane, because Liliane, you have something to tell us about how we can raise awareness, and what is your say on that? Do you have? Can you share your presentation and give us some hints on that, Liliane?
Yes, I will share my presentation. Hang on, just to find a good one. Okay, this is it. I think this is one. Yes. Yes, okay. Do you see the presentation?
Yes, we see the presentation. You can go ahead.
Okay, I will try to be quite brief, because we have so many things to do and to say after my presentation. Just to explain a little bit more about what happened since 2014 and in France, because we had a law about diversity and equality, male to female at that time. And then there is a guide, a sort of a big book against written by Clash. Clash is an organization for fighting against sexual violence in high schools, college, and universities. And this guide has been done to help the victims and to give advice, to help them for fighting in front of the law, and to go further in their life, and psychological help, and very different aspect of that. And the other, so this guide was done for the victims, and after there was another guide made for universities, and called Vademecum for universities, and against sexual harassment. And this one was more to give good, to explain to the university what they have to do for giving good practices, sensibilization, and to help them to develop a real help for victims. What I wanted to tell about was about the survey. There was a survey in 2016 in School of Engineering, so focused on School of Engineering. This survey was done by Colin Briquet in partnership with NGO Femme Ingénieure. Jean-Michel Nicole told you about this organization a little bit earlier. This survey concerned 950 females and 635 males. And we have many schools of engineering in France, and so it was made on 90 engineering schools. And some few results about the survey, because hang on. Donc, hang on, it's going. Sorry for that. I have a. Oh.
What happens? What you need?
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So you have the result. One part of the result, of course, of the survey examine the sexual or sexist violence on the campuses, and what's in very alarming is 58% of girls are victims of or witness of sexual or sexist violence on campuses, with 43 regularly, 12 once a week, and 10 at least once. And what we can focus on is the terrible percentage of abuse victim, around 5.7%. What is interesting is to focus on the fact that when the ratio female-male is low, more is it, then the amount of violence increases. So it's why in sort of School of Engineering, because already who have not really diversity, and as I explained before, at EPF, for example, we have 35% of women, but it's one of the highest rate in School of Engineering. So in other school, it's very lowest. So it could give more opportunities for this sort of harassment or whatever. So another point I wanted to focus on is in December 2018, there was a communication plan from to the university and school and colleges coming from the Ministry of Research and college and university, because they wanted to propose a great communication to sensibilize universities. And for that, there was they wanted to explain more about to give tools to the university, what they have to do, and started a real collaboration. Then there was a survey from June to December 2019 made by Observatoire de l'étudiant in sexual and sexist violence. And this survey has been elaborated based on different articles and realization and thesis, for example, such as one of thesis, PhD thesis in medicine about sexual violence in medicine courses. And this study shows that more than 30% of medicine students in the area of Paris have been a victim of at least one sexual or sexist violence situation. 4 major causes: the group effect, the impunity of the authors, education, and alcohol. And of course, the alcohol is very present for student parties or integration weekend or so on. And this has been notified, particularly in the next survey this year, at the beginning of this year. There was an article by Mediapart about business and economic school. And what was notified that there was many sexual humiliation. It was very current homophobia, sexism, and especially in integration weekend or student parties. So because of all of this, and I have a few other examples. For example, there was another survey made in the Bordeaux universities showing that on 5,000 people, 28% have been victims of violent sexual on the campus. So as Jean-Michel said, we have to move, we have to change, and to make the things will change. And what has been done at the moment, I will speak about listening and support group inside each university, but in fact, it doesn't exist in 45 universities, so there is no action yet today. And another survey by the Observatoire de la vie étudiante on students' livelihood. And this survey, the next one, will include a question about sexual and sexist violence. So we have many things to do to make the things will change, to organize more, grouping the different school and college and university together, journalize a survey to know more, because the silence is the worst things faced to this terrific problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Liliane. Very interesting. There are a lot of things and tools for diagnosis and a lot of actions that have been prepared. We know that in France, the MESRI, the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, is very proactive. We hope that it goes down to acts, in fact, because of course they write recommendations, and then the schools and the faculties, universities would like maybe to apply, but it's not always into the action. So thanks to people like you and Jean-Michel, we hope to organize pilots and projects and concrete projects that will be a model for benchmark in coming months, in fact. Maybe a few words, I'll give a few words at the end about what we do here in Swiss Engineering Geneva, especially, and as a partner of Womenvai. But I'll give first the speech to Sandy, because Sandy, you're the head of HeHop. You started this application association a few years ago, and it's just kicked off, right? The HeHop application. So it's now your turn to explain to us how and why it's so important, of course, to raise awareness, but also to intervene and to act and to propose concrete tools. After all, Sandy, it's for you now.
Thank you, Yvette. Yes, so I'd like to share about a technology-driven solution to, as I said, to help victims capture proof of violence. And before I share more about that, I'd like to share what actually got us to think about an application to capture evidence. It was based on two observations. The first observation is that the majority of victims never speak about what they've injured, what they've gone through. They remain silent. And this is a problem that was like widely revealed by the Me Too hashtag, that the silence that usually victims adopt and never talk about what happened to anybody. And if we talk about the violences on campuses in France, based on the studies that Liliane just shared, 23% of female students when they've injured violence, whether it's sexual assault or a rape, never talk about it to no one, nobody. So silence was one of the first observation. The second one was the fact that when victims get the courage to go and press charges, so they go to the police forces, they're faced with the burden of the proof. So they have to prove, they have to be able to bring tangible evidence of what happened to them. And in most cases, they don't have that proof because we're talking about violence behind closed doors or groups. Jean-Michel talked about the lad culture, where people are not going to talk against their classmates, their schoolmates, and that problem is a societal problem. So if you look at domestic violence, for example, 80% of the charges end up being dismissed. If we talk about the workplace, professional area, we have 90% of the charges being dismissed, and regarding rape or attempted rape, only 1 complaint out of 10 leads to a conviction. And when we look at the feminicide or femicide, or whatever word you prefer to use, we know that 70% of those women who died in the previous year, and for example, last year, had actually pressed charges, but nothing happened because of a lack of proof. So those numbers are French numbers. I just want to make that clear. So that's why we decided to come up with an application that would allow our victims to do 3 things. So nowadays everybody has a smartphone, a connected watch, tablet. I mean, we all have those devices, connected devices. So be able to download an application, download HeHop on one of those devices, and use that application to capture audio files, photo, or video files. Once those files are captured through HeHop, they are automatically transferred to the blockchain and a encrypted safe. So they are sealed on the blockchain, and then they are sealed. They are stored on a encrypted safe. So a digitally encrypted safe. And using the application, when the victim or a witness decides to go and press charges, using the application, they can press a button that will allow them to generate a digital key, and that's the digital key of that safe. And they can provide that digital key to the judiciary system for the police forces to request access to the data to HeHop. So this is really an end-to-end process where the evidence is made legally valid. So there is no human intervention. When you capture the evidence, you cannot download it, you cannot send it to anybody. There's nothing you can do with that data. It's automatically transferred, and then once it is secured, the only people who can have access to it is the police, provided that you've given them the digital key, of course. So that's how it works. There is a key message that we'd like to share with you today. First of all, it is absolutely important to never underestimate the abuse level. And I wanted to share this other tool, the violence meter. So that violence meter is a tool that is that was created in South America, in Mexico first, and then was sort of copied and imported in other countries, like in France, for example. And it gives an indication of different levels of abuse that should be considered as unacceptable. So as long as you are in the orange, light to darker orange space, you are in a space where you are actually a victim of violence, and it is not acceptable. You can't just consider that it's sort of okay, or okay, they did it once, they're not going to do it again, or maybe I was not behaving myself properly. Never excuse violence, never look for justification, don't try to find reasons linked to you. Violence is unacceptable. Being abused is just not tolerated. It's Jean-Michel who talked about or even zero tolerance. Yes, that's the behavior that we should all have when facing violence. And so when you're in that space, it's better to start collecting data, collecting evidence. So if the day you decide to go and press charges, so at least you're going to have evidence that will prove what happened. So that's for me on HeHop, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on the application at the end of the conference. And at the moment, it's only available in France, but of course, we definitely want to export that ID outside of the country and work with other countries and other governments to have it being made international.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It is really interesting. We know it's a global problem, global issue. And if we can benchmark and share our tools outside France, of course, it's wonderful. Thank you so much. I know from the participants just before in the French sessions, French-speaking session, we had countries from outside France, from Belgium, from Benin, etc. And they tried, of course, to download the application. They did it, and it's successful. So they can at least show around them what's so good about HeHop. Of course, you say violence is not acceptable. I think this is really a keywords that we are going to retain and from your presentation. There are no questions so far from our participants. So what I would like to do Meantime, you and Liliane prepare your, I would say, in a few 1 or 2 sentences, the conclusions. What would be the next step, for example, if we are to do a conference in a country or another one about this? What are the key elements that we can retain? What are the actions that you would like to see? Is this about collaboration between the private and public sector? Is it about victims coming and speaking out? Is it about, I don't know, any kind of tools that have been developed? Please think about something. And meanwhile, I'll share my screen because I would like to, of course, tell you a bit more about what we do in Switzerland and what we've been promoting so far here in Geneva. Okay, I'm doing this. Sorry, this I proposed already. And I think this is another slide there. Okay. So this is just basically tools that we've been, it's a campaign, in fact, a campaign that, of course, it's French. It is in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. It's at the UNIGE, the University of Geneva. And of course, this tells about a work, a collaborative work between students, sociologues, psychologues, a little bit what basically Jean-Michel has posed in his introduction and commitment video earlier. It is very important that we understand that if there is not this collaborative work, the silence will be in a closed door in the head of the victim, and we cannot speak out. And it's very difficult for the young one who's being victim, because it's sometimes not at home that he or she can express herself, for example. So this space and time has been created a few years ago, and it has been also organized in different countries, different universities, in Liège, Belgium, for example. This is a campaign that you can find posters also rolling out in screens. You can find, of course, those posters on the walls, on also where on the floor where you basically walk, on the stairs. And these key messages are really important to be seen by not only the victims, but of course the actors of the system, because sometimes you believe you are not into that system because you are against it. But if you don't declare it, if you don't witness this, if you just don't listen, you are anyway part of the system. So here it says that, of course, your sexism jokes are so good, so funny, so really exhilarating that I can use them when there will be a prosecution at the jury, you know, local tribunal. Sorry, Sandy, what's the word here?
Courthouse, the courthouse.
The courthouse. Yes, thanks. Sorry. Your sexism jokes are really degrading and humiliating and not acceptable. I even smile at them. So of course it's an ironic smile, and sometimes victims just smile because we are in a situation, in an environment that you cannot just go against it. But please speak out when you are a victim. And of course, now that we are, for example, me a little bit more senior, we cannot just accept those sexisms, sexist jokes, etc. Here it says, if you would comment, instead of commenting my legs or my dress or whatever, the way I walk, maybe you could comment my research works, my competencies. This is really about competencies, because when you see me, you first see somebody who's an engineer who has been working very hard in mathematics, physics, and languages, and whatever thematics that you are proposed to work until now. You don't please see me as a whatever girl you think I am. Okay, so this is really very strong messages that we would like to maybe help you to raise and to organize. Of course, this is one concrete action to raise awareness, but I would like also to stress that it is very important, I think it was said before, that we start at primary age, and at primary school here at Swiss Engineering Geneva, we have some kits that can help realize that mixity, diversity, we can work together when we are 8, 6, and around the table, we give you some tools, girls and boys together to work together and learn about the teamwork and how you, the young lady, are not more stupid than the boy, you know. So it starts really at the educational age and system. And we offer as women in STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, some tools, concrete tools to help them, for example, work on an electrical game, for example. Of course, when it comes to an age when the girls are, you know, 15, 16, etc., the eyes around are more attracted by those girls, and of course, it might create some issues. So it is a very sensitive age, we know, not only for girls, by the way, also for boys, but we help here through our coaching and mentoring programs to help them gain confidence in themselves, because when you respect yourself, as I said before, you may respect also the others, and you may listen more carefully to what the others tell you. Then, of course, I already spoke about what we do in developing countries, for example, but not only. Unfortunately, those issues are not a question of money. Sometimes it happens right next door to us also. And we offer women in STEM in general, and any age from junior, mid-year or senior category of age, the possibility for them to work into a partnership, to be more confident also when they need to knock on the door of the banking system, because the banks have the money and they want to have their startup, etc. So then we help a little bit with our experience. So this was a few cases to show what we do. Maybe we give now, it's time soon to close. And I'm seeing that, yeah, we have a few participants here. I don't know if some of you would like to raise their hand and speak. Checking here that we have a few participants from outside of France who would like to. Please just raise their hand in the participants list that I have here. And if you want to present yourself, tell us a little bit more about who you are, why you're here, and if the thematic is obviously interesting for you, don't hesitate to raise the hand, because we still have 5-6 minutes and we can give you the hand. Here we've got Trudy Morgan. Thank you so much, Trudy. I think we're going to give you the hand, of course. I'm so glad you're here. And you've been appointed recently, I think, in Sierra Leone as a key woman. Can we give a technical, yes, can you put on your mic, Trudy? It is such.
Hello, Yvette.
Hi. Can you present yourself, please, Trudy?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Engineer Trudy Morgan. I am the president of Sierra Leone Women Engineers. But more recently, I was made on Tuesday, actually, the president of Sierra Leone Institution of Engineers, the first female in their 50-year history.
Wow.
And it's, for me, this is a very interesting topic. It's an interesting topic because I became interested in forming the Women Engineers group in Sierra Leone because of issues like this. I came back to Sierra Leone to work from the UK, and in discussions with a colleague, we set up Women Engineers just to get, you know, a fraternity, a sorority of women engineering activities going. The challenge we had was that we couldn't get women to participate. And when we had one-on-one conversations, the feedback was they had misunderstood what we wanted to do. A lot of them had said to us, not a lot, a few of them had said, when we were at universities, we have all of these issues with our male lecturers, etc. and we don't want to leave university and go into a working environment, have to deal with these same people who are there. Again, at an institutional level, we've had enough. So it became evident that we needed to form women engineers to support women. That's how women engineers came about, as a result of the conversations that we have in our country. I know Yvette is aware that we have a public health, public emergency status with regards to rape in Sierra Leone, which is actually quite indicting for us as a country. And we have a real issue here, and there are people who will speak to that much better than I could or I would. But one of the key things I find is that when we have a number of things that are ongoing in country, when we look at women in STEM. And one of the challenges that we have is that by the time a girl goes into school and she goes into secondary school and then to university, the numbers of girls who are interested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics falls dramatically. And by the time they get to university level, that number has really dwindled. I mean, it hasn't changed in a long time. And I can testify to the very same thing. We started off in 4 girls, and I was the only one who completed when I went to university here in Sierra Leone. So this topic is interesting to me. And one of the challenges we have also is that we're not good at numbers here. We don't take the numbers. People don't come out and speak out. So we don't have the evidence that we can use to make the case, because if they don't speak, we don't get the numbers. Don't get the numbers, you can't make the case. So obviously, I'd like to keep this conversation going and see what else we can do to support each other and to keep this conversation alive. Because until all women feel safe, be you in school, be you university, at work, even in your home, then the battle is still on. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Well, thank you so much, Trudy. I'm so glad that you are with us and you can speak out for your ladies around in the country. And I was saying earlier to you on the WhatsApp, that would be fantastic if we can do a project together. Please organize something for next year and we will come to Sierra Leone. I'm sure Lilian and Sandy would like to come, and of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We can do some benchmark for sure. Sandy, would you like to give give us some hope, please, that this will be better in a few years?
Anyway, as I always say, this is a battle that we have to wage all together, like with with a lot of different stakeholders. So we don't have one stakeholder who will be able to tackle this huge issue. I mean, violence against women and violence in general is a scourge. So, and it's too big of a problem for one stakeholder to even if it's a government to tackle it. And so definitely when I hear Trudy speaking, it makes me even more convinced that it is something where we have to really join forces and have a diversity of stakeholders, whether they're public, private, small, big, non-profit, profit, and really do things in a much more transversal way, because the more siloed, the more in silo that approach is, the easier it is for assaulters. So definitely what works in a country, so now we're launching HeHop here in France, I am sure that it can also work in other parts of the world. And we've got Marin Murray here in the call, and Marin is the head of Tech for Good Dublin. And if Marin, you want to jump into the call, chime in and say a few words, please feel free. And so we are working with Marin to see what we can do on the field of violence against women in Ireland. So that's the next step.
Okay, we have many participants, few participants from many countries far away in Asia. Unfortunately, we have only 1 minute left. Thank you, Sandy, for your conclusive words. We retained, we must not stay silent, and I think we all are aware of that. We must go and act. Maybe I would like to give the speech now to Liliane to just conclude and also give us some hope, because we want to gather again face to face and not always with the virtual mode at EPF. And I think Jean-Michel has agreed that we would, towards the end of November, we would go for another event, this time in physical. And we hope, of course, for our colleagues and friends outside of Paris that we could give a conclusive webinar also on that same day. Liliane, give us some few hints now for as a conclusive words, please.
Yes, first, I'm really glad to see that it's kind of event in partnership with organization, high school, college, and is get in touch with many people all around the world. And of course, I think we'll have to develop this kind of events and actions. And I really believe that the collaboration between different groups and the commitment of participants like you, Yvette, like HeHop with this fantastic application, like Jean-Michel with his energy, and will help to change the world, I hope so, and to make the thing we change. As I said during the previous conference, this fight is not only a woman fight, it's a generation fight for male and female. It's all together, and we could win only if we are all together, and if the new generation is conscious of, is aware of what happens, and to make them react and change their mind and the way of the thing between people, respect between individual person, individual people will be better and more.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to try and do our best for a better society. Thank you again to our speakers, Liliane, Sandy, thank you so much. We, of course, thank Jean-Michel Nicole, the head of the EPF. We thank again the Secretary General of UN, who made a special effort from New York to send us his words with the video in French earlier today and in English. So thank you so much, Dr. Antonio Guterres. And we hope that by the end of November, we are able to do an event together with all the actors and do that pilot that we are so eager to test, and not only to raise awareness, but now really to act on the field. We thank so much our participants from far away. Sorry if we didn't take all the questions, but time is now closing, and we hope you have a good day, evening, or morning. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.